So, 4 steps to feeling your emotions in 90 seconds or less. So, first of all, what is an emotion and why is it important to shift it quickly? So, an emotion is a biological response to an event that we've experienced. So, for example, someone says something, we feel hurt. Our body makes chemicals in our body when someone hurts us, and that gives us that sense of hurt. Now, what happens when we don't process that emotion? When we don't process it, it gets locked in our body. Over time, we make a habit of repressing and suppressing emotions. And when we do that, it gets locked in our organs, our tissues, and from there, it can create all kinds of disease, which isn't good, right? Think of stress, for example. So many people suffer from stress. 80% of people suffer from stress. And part of that stress is not being able to express their emotions. And where does trauma come from? Trauma comes from a number of ways you could look at trauma. Sometimes my understanding is that it's any time where someone wasn't given the love that they needed, or they weren't given the validation they needed for the feelings that they were feeling. So in which case they felt unheard, unseen, unbelonging, and disconnected. If you imagine how that would feel when you felt an emotion and someone laughed at you. Maybe perhaps you've cried over what was a small thing to someone else, but to you it was a really big deal. Someone laughed at you for crying about it. That's a kind of trauma. Think about that for a moment and think about how that feels. Now think about what it would have been like had you been validated and you were able to move that emotion through. So I'm going to teach you how to move that emotion through right now. So there's 4 steps. The first step is name it. The second step is own it. The third step is love it with acceptance. And the fourth step is let it go. So how do we do that? So step number 1, feeling it, acknowledging your feelings. So when, say, you're experiencing an emotion, it could be upset, it could be anger, it could be hurt, it could even be panic. When you find yourself feeling an emotion, be able to name it is really important. But if you can't name what's going on for you at that time, then you can break it down. Perhaps you're aware of a feeling. Maybe you're feeling heavy. Maybe you're feeling light. Maybe you're feeling hazy or lost. These are feelings that we have, but they're not really emotions. But what if you can't feel your emotion? You don't know how to language it. You don't know how to feel. It comes down to your bodily sensations. And that might be hot, cold, tingly. It might be a feeling of, like I said, heaviness is what I mentioned before. And if you can't feel anything, then start to move your body. Rolling your shoulders back, for instance, is really helpful. And just notice how that feels. Do you notice any part of your body that's tight? Are you feeling heat? Are you feeling cold? Is there a part of you that feels loose or tight, tense, agitated? Just notice that. And you might be asking, but what if I'm feeling really tight? What if I'm feeling really upset and I'm crying? What if I'm in a panic and my breathing's funny and you feel out of control? Breathing. At this point in the game, you want to be able to breathe. So I'm going to show you a really good way to breathe. So you want to breathe in deeply and slowly through your nose and exhale slowly through your mouth. So I'll demonstrate. I'll do it 3 times so you can see. And on the last exhale, you want to exhale. And exhale some more. So I'm bringing my belly in and I'm really forcing every bit of air out of my lungs. And you'll find that when you do that on that last time, your mind quietens a lot more. And a lot of times when we're feeling really emotional, it's because we've got some voices, something telling us how wrong we are for feeling the way that we're feeling, that it's not right. It's a small deal. Why are you upset? Breathing slow, it calms the mind, but it also sends a signal to the body that it's safe. When we are stressed, like if you think caveman times and you've got lions and other animals that were trying to kill us, in those situations, what would happen is the body shuts down all functions that are unnecessary for survival. It means that your breath gets shallow and quick. All of your energy goes to your muscles. You have nothing going to your stomach for digestion, and a lot of it isn't in your head anymore. It's just purely focused on you get the heck out of there. So by doing this, we are we're telling ourselves we are safe. And if we move as well, if you think about an animal, if you ever watched an animal documentary where you've got tigers or say lions and gazelles. So if you've got a lion catching a gazelle, and the gazelle gets away, the gazelle will always shake itself off. Always. If you watch, if an animal escapes or after it's done its dash, it will stop and it will shake. And the reason it's doing that is it's literally shaking off all the hormones, all of the stuff that's in the body that was there to help it survive. Once it doesn't need it anymore, it shakes it off. So shake, shake, shake. It's really good. So there we go. So that's part one. Name your emotions. And with that, breathe, acknowledge, name it. And the second part is own the emotion. Claim it for your own. What do I mean by that? Oftentimes we feel an emotion because someone did something and it upset us, and we say, that person made me feel like this. I want you to turn that around, because yes, the fact is someone did something, and the other fact is you got upset about it. And someone else might have seen that same thing and not get upset about it. The emotional response is yours. So accept the fact that I am upset. I am angry. And you might say, I am angry because this happened. But you own it by saying I am, or I have anger because of this. Or you can just simply say I have, or I am, without the extra detail. The third thing, and this is the crucial thing that's often missing when it comes to emotional healing, loving and accepting the emotion like you want it there. Now this is the hardest thing, because we don't want to feel upset. We don't want to feel anger. We don't want to feel anxious. So what do we do about it? What I'd like you to imagine, because a lot of times our emotional responses are a byproduct or a leftover from when we were kids, and from a time when we weren't allowed to process our emotions fully and completely. So I want you to imagine that right now you are not an adult feeling what you're feeling when you're going through this process. You're not an adult. What's coming up is actually a child that hasn't been seen, a child that has not been understood, a child that learned that it wasn't okay to feel whatever it is that you're feeling right now. And I'd like you to imagine that this child was in front of you, and invite you to imagine if you had a child in front of you who was really upset or angry or frustrated, what you would do. And I'm betting for most people I've asked this of, they want to hug them. They want to tell them it's okay. So I invite you to tell yourself that it's okay. The second part of this, to really accepting your emotions, is know that your emotions are a gateway. Your emotions are a gateway to your true self. They're a gateway to your happiness. And feeling more pain today means that you don't suffer as much tomorrow. Now, what do I mean by this? So I want you to imagine that I'm going to share with you this analogy because I think it's really cool. So imagine that within us, imagine that you have caves. And each cave has a bucket in it full of water. Now, the bucket is like a container holding your emotion. So the water is your emotion. And the cave is housing it. A cave being a dark place, we don't know what's in there. It's unknown. And usually caves are associated with things that aren't safe, right? And what happens through life is that sometimes we get pulled into those caves whether we like it or not. We get to experience those emotions whether we like it or not. And quite often what happens is that we end up having our heads dunked into the water and we come out wet. But there's nothing happening with the water inside. It stays the same level. However, if you become the explorer, if you decide, okay, I don't want to go in there, but you know what, I'm going to go in anyway because I know that if I go in there, I know I'm going to be better off. So what I mean by that is that you grab your torch, you decide that, hey, I'm going to look at this thing. You go into your cave, you find your bucket, you look at the emotions in there, you feel the pain, the suffering that you're holding on to. And when you do that, you're emptying your bucket. And this is a process of grieving. You're literally grieving for the things that have happened. You're grieving the letting go of that emotion. So I'd love to know if this analogy resonates with you. So you're letting go of the stuff that you've been carrying on to. And the more you do that, it's not to say that you'll empty out it all in one go. You might have to really experience it a few times, but each time it gets less. And every time that when you come up and feel it, you get rid of it, it's going to eventually empty. And then all you'll be experiencing is what you experience in that moment. How cool is that? So I invite you to do something today or whenever you have this emotion that your future self is going to thank you for, because I guarantee your future self, now that you've learned this information, will thank you for experiencing the pain in that moment so that they didn't have to suffer. I hope that makes sense. And the next thing I want you to realize is that you just let it go. Because once you've experienced it, there's nothing to hold on to. And then letting go is actually something that happens very naturally. So, did you love this? I hope so. I found it invaluable. I really have. And I'm so glad to be able to share this with you right now. If you are in any way confused, do let me know. I'd love to help you out. If you'd like to know more, also let me know. Or if you have questions about emotional intimacy and how to get through emotions faster, please post them in the comments because I can do a video for you based on your topics. So let me know and enjoy the rest of your day. Do remember to subscribe, and there's other videos that you can watch as well. Have a fabulous day. Namaste. Carrie from Self Nurture out.